Welcome to World of Marketing Podcast, a Foster Web Marketing production. Here's your host, Tom Foster.
Okay, hey everybody, it's Tom Foster on the World of Marketing. And I don't even know what episode it is. It's in the 70s though. And I am so happy. I've been chasing this girl for a long time. It's my good friend, Arian. Kia, welcome to the show. I would bow in person, but here we are, social distancing, doing all that. It's great to see you.
Good to see you, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show. I know it's been a while. I missed you. Haven't probably seen you since 2019, even though we are half a mile from each other.
Yeah.
And but I'm excited to be here today and to see you and talk to your viewers and your listeners.
I'm going to see you next week, though, right? We'll see each other next week.
That's right.
Great Legal Marketing Summit.
Great Legal Marketing Heroes and Icons. Yep.
And that is a good segue because I want to talk about the key takeaways that everybody's going to get from this podcast from Kia. And because I've known Kia for 20 years. You know that? Almost 20 years we've known each other. That's how long we've known each other.
Has it been 20?
Yes.
Wow.
I know. Never give up. Because you never know around what's around the corner. And that story is definitely true of you. And we're going to talk about your story.
That's right.
The rules of serendipity, because you and I have a very similar story when it comes to that. Kia is the lady that has published more newsletters for more brilliant marketers that you all know, like the man himself, Dan Kennedy, Ben Glass, and me, and many, many others that she'll tell that I don't even know that I'll be in shock because she's very humble, everybody. And then she's going to tell you guys some newsletter secrets because she's been doing this her whole career and done it for just the greats. And so she's going to tell you some secrets that everybody should bake into their newsletter to make them as successful as she's made others. And then real quick, she's going to give us something, give you guys an offer. So stay tuned and we'll talk about that. But it is, and she's going to be speaking, what is it? It's an implementation map. So I'll give you guys the URL towards the end and we'll put it up. And she's also speaking next week with me and a bunch of other people, virtual and not virtual. And who knows how we're going to do it. But Charlie Mann and Ben Glass, Great Legal Marketing, got that figured out. But you're going to be doing the 5 tips for turning your best ideas and strategies into actual results-driven marketing.
That's right. That's right. I'm excited to share about that. Because a lot of the business that I'm in, Tom, one of the biggest issues that I see with my clients, attorneys, is the implementation. And so we're big on implementation and getting it done in the best way, the fastest way, the most efficient way, the most affordable way. So
and I are
that's
in
what
the
I love
same
talking
business.
about.
And isn't that the truth? It's just like getting it done.
Yeah.
But let's just kind of go back because I did say, that dreaded thing that, we've known each other for that long or nearly that long.
I don't know. I mean, I'm only 19, so I don't know how that can be.
I'm sorry. It's me, really. You have not aged at all. It's just me with the gray and the hair all fell out and stuff. But I know I'm sure I can find some pictures back then. But when you and Ben and I first set out on this, this is when Ben basically was first starting out. And he kind of discovered you and I around the same time. When you say,
I remember the day I met you. It was at one of his events. And yeah. I think it was.
Now, why don't you tell the story of how, because I don't want to tell the story for you, although I know it pretty well, but I would like you to tell the story of how you and Ben met.
So I love what you say about, success is right around the corner. It could be the next, the next step, and you don't even know it. And I've told this story a lot, but I will keep telling it because I think there's so much about it that it encourages me when I tell it. And so I hope it encourages your viewers too. mine is I was down and out. I was ready to close my business. There was no job, no work, no clients, and we were broke. And what do we do? And we were kind of sitting there feeling sorry for ourselves. And, we had a print shop back then. So I started out with a print shop. I had changed my career, recently to graphic design. And so we had an opportunity to buy a printing business, which I thought, well, great. I can have my design skills. I can use it in printing. So basically I bought myself a job is what happened. And when we got in there, we started working, realities were hitting, the money wasn't coming. We bore through our savings.
It'd be so easy. Everybody thinks it's so easy. We'll just start a business, print shop. It'd be easy.
It's easy. Start my own practice. It's easy, but
right.
Fine. It's not easy, but if it wasn't for that sort of sense of, the rosy picture that we have of it, nobody would start it. And I think that people should start it, even if it's not easy. If it takes ignorance for you to step out and start your own business, start your own practice, do it.
Yeah,
you'll figure it out.
Sure.
You'll figure it out. And
right.
And you've got people doing it all the time, because entrepreneurs and business owners, they are the backbone. And I love them. I love working with them. I love being one. And I will not trade it for anything in the world. So yeah, we went into it thinking this is going to be easy, but it wasn't. And that day when we had no more savings left, credit cards were maxed, all of it, bleak picture, and we had like 5 boxes of postcards that we couldn't afford to mail because we couldn't buy the postage. Postage is expensive, and I didn't know who to mail it to. I couldn't afford to buy a list. And so then my husband was like, look, let's just send 100 of these. Let's just send 50 of those. Don't just sit on these. And so I Googled names and addresses and everything. I was like, who still needs printing? Lawyers are still using letterheads. This was just when the digital.
This is like a last act of desperation, right? Like
it was
we have this box in the corner. Your husband is like, do something with them.
Yes. I love, like, okay. I just, it's like, well, what do we do? Just what's the next thing to do? And who's the next person? And it's funny because these are like the same principles that we still use to do marketing. I just didn't know I was using it back then. Who do we mail to? Who still needs what I sell, which was printing at that time. And, people were doing everything online. Desktop publishing was just starting to blow up. A lot of printers had gone out of business, and I said, okay,
this is when digital websites were just starting to take off, and people were just turning their attention to that. And yes. Go ahead.
They were doing their own, printing and PDFs, electronic business, and everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, attorneys and accountants, they're so old school. They still need letterheads and business cards. And so we looked them up, Googled them, and found like 100 addresses, labeled the postcards, or maybe did it by hand, I don't remember, mailed them out. 50 of them came back, literally half of them came back because they were bad addresses, or we had just Googled them. So, but one person called me. Guess who that was? Who knew? Ben Glass, right?
That's right.
And so, right, that's like you don't know what's around the corner. And he happened to be looking for a postcard printer. He was doing a bunch of, he had just started his GLM, Great Legal Marketing, and he was looking for someone, a local person to print postcards. And my postcards showed up. He was like, oh, I'll call them. And he called me, and I was like, yay, jackpot. He was a marketing consultant. He needs a lot of stuff. Also, but little did I know that he was going to be more than just a client. That I went into his office, like the first thing he said to me, this is another demonstration of what not to do. So I reduced all my prices. So my prices were pretty low, and I went and I had this price sheet. I was like, okay, low, low, low. That I'm really going to get his business by reducing my prices. So what not to do, right? Because I was just shooting myself in the foot. And he wasn't looking for low prices. He was looking for someone who was local, reliable, and could do good work. He wasn't looking for cheap. But no, what do? I'm like, oh, cheap. That's what's going to catch him. So wrong. So to get that off of your marketing, list. So I
That's a
went and
great
found
lesson right there. Like everybody, like that's a great point that she just said, is that because she had it in her mental mind, because you were so desperate and you were like, so
right.
you had such, you didn't have any confidence. You had gone through this, oh, I'm no good at this, like it was the last desperate move. I had one hit from a lawyer, I go in there, I'm anything to get his business.
50 postcards had come back. Yeah.
Right. I'll just, cut it a slash and burn prices. That's not what he was interested in. As you said, he wanted somebody local. So that's a very good point to everybody listening. Like, it ain't about pricing.
Nope.
It is, by the way, those are the worst clients when it's about pricing.
Yes.
And Kia's learned that. Now, by the way, you won't ever hear that stuff from her today. There's no slashing of pricing today.
No, because that's not really what people are necessarily
He
looking
educated you
for.
that day on that. That's right.
He educated me that day on that. And let me tell you, Tom, when I work with attorneys, far too often I see them justifying their prices. So they might think that I'm not the lowest price, and they're gonna set their fees. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them, they'll set their fees thinking that this is pretty good, but then they'll end up trying to justify it in their marketing.
Every business is like that. They're afraid of it, because they have their
they don't
own
know
stuff.
Yeah.
We all do.
We do, and that's a whole another podcast for that. But anyway, so he looked at my prices. He was like, "Why are your prices so low?" Because that to him was like, surely something is wrong with you.
Right.
And so, because that gave him the wrong.
That's another thing that broadcast is so cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's cheap. So he got my whole sob story. I'm like, look, this is what happened. This is how I got in this business. This is what I do. And business is bad. I'm looking for a job, which I was. And he gave me a whole bunch of information. He gave me like Dan Kennedy stuff. He gave me his own marketing. This was actually about a month before his conference, the one that's coming up,
the
next week.
Summit.
Yep.
That's right.
And he gave me a free ticket, and he's like, come to it. I was like, okay, and so I went and I read the books. It was like, this is exactly what I didn't know I needed, but I needed it. Everything just made so much sense. And here's this one important point. If you get nothing out of this, is this: I did go to the conference, which was for lawyers, obviously, which is where I met you. And I remember sitting there and I'm listening. I still remember your presentation, Tom, about websites, online marketing, Ben talking and other people. Dave Freeze was talking. And I was like, it was like filling this void. And I'm like taking notes. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Now, I was not a lawyer, but everything that was being taught, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this in my business. I'm going to do this in my business. The point being that I can take these principles that I'm learning from this business that is completely different from what I do, and also to use them for my business. And that is such a key thing that marketers, serious marketers and entrepreneurs do, is that you look outside of your industry and bring in what is working and see how you can adapt it and be different. So that was huge.
Yeah, I mean, and that is so true. And like, that's kind of what Ben has always done and still does to this day, is looked outside what works in other businesses and industries and brought them into the legal world.
Yes, challenge the status quo.
Yeah, and like
principles.
Sometimes people are like, "What in the world are you doing?" And he's like, he's just often has tunnel vision about what he's going to do, very focused, and it works or doesn't work, but going to do it. So kind of the thing about that is that the rule, like I said, never give up. And you were about to give up, and actually that's kind of okay, so it hasn't been all 20 years. So I've known Ben 20 years, so I met you, so okay. So maybe 15. All right,
I'll take 20.
So, all right. But anyway, but like that's because the kind of the same thing happened where I was lost and what am I going to do? And although I wasn't, you know, at the brink of, you know, I kind of was, but not as bad as you. I was in unemployment, but I was on my way of clawing my way out of that previous to, because I was in business with my mother-in-law and doing that trial presentation. But point is that when I met that man, changed my entire life. I had lunch with him yesterday and you know, talking to him, and I was talking to him about you and I and reminiscing about that, you know, and it's funny, you know, like the waiter that was a kid, you know, from, yeah, and he just has this conversation with this kid, you know, and asking about what is good at school and what are his, you know, goals and what are his, you know, and, you know, just giving advice, you know, Ben, he just a caring guy, like just the way he is. But anyway. Yeah, and the point is, like, never give up, because you could run into a Ben Glass, and we were fortunate to do that. And you never know who they are or what kind of people they are, and there's lots of people like that in the world, and that's also kind of the rules of serendipity, right? Like chance encounters, like how you and I met, and that's also. As a result of meeting Ben, and you and I met, and all of, wow, I mean, like our businesses flourish because of the relationships that we have met, right? And
that's right.
I mean, and I can tell you and everybody that, well, you know, I mean, I've been working with you since then, immediately. I'm a web guy, and I was like, I'm doing a newsletter. And I started right away, and whatever Kia said, I did. And, you know, I've done it all the wrong ways and all the right ways, right, Kia?
Well, your story, well, Tom, I mean, you and everybody else in this field, right? They only broadcast the right ways they do it. They'll never broadcast the wrong ways they did it, right? So you and I know Ben's wrong ways, you know, we know, right? So, and sure, we can talk about that, but just doesn't know that you know, for every, you know, 10 successes, there's 50 that was like, God, what are we thinking? I've had them, you've had them, Ben has had them. And that's the idea of being resilient and not giving up, and just, you know, plowing forward, knowing that, you know, you still have this forward motion. So you said the law of serendipity, and I relate that to the law of attraction, which I know you believe in too. And I'm a big believer in that, you know, you are going to attract the energy that you are putting out there, right? So and that's all with the serendipity, because when you run into someone or something that you're like, ooh, you connect with, it's because you've attracted that into your life. And being resilient and always looking for the positive, always you know, having that bigger mission, that bigger purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, which is, I think, what makes Ben successful, which is what makes you successful, and being able to move forward toward that goal, despite all the things that may be falling apart or not falling apart or working or whatever it is that is going on around us. Not giving up, having that positive, you know, moving forward, always learning, always growing, and that comes into your life. You attract that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Power
and I found that
thinking, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest turning points in my life has always happened alongside of someone who's been coaching me, I've been consulting with, I've been masterminding with, without fail. So, and it's just, that's what you know, surround yourself with.
Exactly. And speaking of, like, people that you've surrounded yourself with, you have surrounded yourself or hung out with or worked for or whatever, some pretty cool people. Like the one, you know who I'm talking about. I mean, like Dan Kennedy himself. You've worked with Dan himself, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah. I did a lot of projects for him, personal projects, big projects.
Tell everybody how that came about. I mean, like, how does somebody get hired by Dan, the man?
So the way that happened is I ticked him off royally. That's how that happened. You know, and I have to use that principle where, you know, where Ben adheres to it, Dan, you know, if you don't tick off someone every day, you're not doing your job. Well, that day happened to be Dan Kennedy. So, but I got on his radar, and you know, I had been in a mastermind with Ben. This was you were in that mastermind too, where it was just a bunch of business owners, and I had decided when I got introduced to Dan and what he does, I had it in my mind, right? It's the law of attraction, that he's going to become my client. That was it. I was like, I want Dan Kennedy to become my client. And I mean, part of it was because I loved everything that he said. I was adopting everything he was saying, and you know, what he was teaching, it just resonated with me. And I'm like, I want to know him. I want to be friends with him. I want him as my client, and I want to help him. And whatever, I want to be around the people he's around. And so that was like my goal. And so we you know, along with the mastermind with Ben, we came up with this idea. I created this unique shock and awe package just for Dan Kennedy. I put so much time and effort into that. I went out and I bought things for it. I bought these chocolate cigars, and it was like, ooh, yeah. I wrote this like really horrible sales letter, because that was my first time writing a sales letter, but it was still a sales letter. I wrote it, and I just did a bunch of other stuff, and I sent it, I FedExed it to him. And basically the pitch to him was that, let me design your newsletters for you. And at that time, GKIC had just been sold to this big corporation.
Yeah, I was involved.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of a disaster, but it happened anyway. See, everybody has their failures, right? Even Dan Kennedy and GKIC. That thing almost went. That ship, by the way, went down.
Just because I just want to say, because you brought it up, I'm actually going to have David D on this podcast to talk about that here in the future.
Get on that podcast. That's going to be some interesting tea, right? To talk about there.
Post GKIC after Glacier Kennedy left.
Yeah. Very interesting. There was some.
Let's talk about how to just dismantle a beautiful organic company. But anyway.
Yeah. So talk about, like, don't feel bad, right? If you have some kind of setback, you know, Dan Kennedy almost lost his legacy.
Right.
So, but anyway, they had just made that transition, and so this is my pitch, right? I said, Dan, basically paraphrase, I said, I'm making you this awesome offer. You know, you're going to get this direct response marketing graphic designer who understands A to Z of direct response and design and all that stuff. I'm going to be your inner circle personal designer for all this stuff, all your newsletters. And if you're not going to take me, if you're too down to take me up on it, I'm just going to send it directly to this new president. I don't remember her name.
Betsy.
And yeah. And I said, but I'm going to give you.
That is bold, Kia. Good for you.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's the secret. Okay, Ben will probably deny this, but that's okay. It was Ben's idea.
Of course it was Ben's idea.
It was Ben's idea.
No, that was good.
I was like, okay. And I even put I put a FedEx envelope in there that was already labeled. I said, send this to Miss, what's her name? I don't remember her name. She was the new CEO. And I'm like, send this to her because you should, because this is a smart thing to do. So it was like a little on the arrogant side, and I was trying to be confident or whatever, but it was also humorous in a way.
Were you scared? Were you terrified?
No, I was excited.
You were like, let's see, come what may. Hey.
I was like, he's going to be so, I'm going to impress the socks off of him. Great. Yeah. And so I sent this off. I mean, I still have a sample of that box. I should have brought it. And on our next podcast, which we're going to do,
You'll have
I'm
to
gonna
show
bring a sample
that
of
out.
that shock and awe box that I sent to Dan, just for old time's sake.
That worked on
And
me, by the way. When you did that to me years later, you did the same thing to me, and it
remember.
totally blew my mind.
Shock and awe boxes are the greatest secret that nobody ever
Yes.
uses. Well, very few people use, but for sure, that's okay. I'm happy to keep it a secret.
Shock and awe box, yes.
If you're not doing it, do it.
Real quick, I hate to break this concentration, but anybody that does not know what we're talking about with the shock and awe needs to contact Kia about a shock and awe package, because literally no one knows how to make a shock and awe package like Kia does. And quick story, Kia does our shock and awes, all of them. So anybody that gets anything from Foster, they come from her. We try to do them in-house. No, we try. Remember that? That was hilarious. I was like, man, these just look ugly. And then one day we're having a meeting, we're talking, and I was like, you're like talking and you're like doing it like over to the side. And then you just kind of like skid it across the table. It's all beautiful and folded and with a beautiful bow.
Yeah, I think it was not.
So
I was
shock
like, we
and
need to
awe
fix that.
or your department. Don't just throw crap in a box and send it out like that. Like that is, you want it to be like delivered like a Christmas present. That's what it looks like from Kia.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
That's exactly right.
It's beyond, it's like shock and awe 2.0. Okay, anyway, back to Dan Kennedy.
The shock and awe. That's now
total shock and awe.
Total shock and awe thing. I think that he probably loved the box and getting it and the presentation, but then the message was wrong. And so which is a very common problem in marketing, regardless of what you're doing. So you have this beautiful whatever it is.
But in a way, it probably was good for him, because he's such a Ben, like your postcard for Ben back years was wrong, but for him it was right, because he's like teaching moment for him. And
teaching moment for him.
Same for Dan, like, oh really, lady, I'm gonna show you. And like for him, where he's getting this stuff all the time, like having a kind of a challenge like that, I'm sure is what. Anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah. So he, the message was off. Like I just, but whatever. But he got it. He sent me this 3-page fax. When I told Ben, when I told Ben, I was like, Ben, he sent me a 3-page fax. He was like, you got a 3-page fax from Dan Kennedy? I was like, yeah, basically he just put me in my place and said that, it just went over like a brick. I mean, it came off as superlatively arrogant, that I thought that, you know what, if you're not going to take me up on this, I'm going to send it. And there was just some other things that he was like, who do you think you are? Like I was threatening him, kind of a thing. And then he said this, he said, if it wasn't for the fact that you're a Ben Glass's friend, and Ben is a private client of mine, I would just throw into the trash and ignored you. So I was like, well, good, because it was his idea. Now I didn't throw Ben under the bus on that. So I was like, that's okay. You should
frame that. You should frame that.
But so then I sent this, I sent them a handwritten note, and I just repented of my sins. I was like, it was an attempt at humor. I apologize. Certainly, I don't think that you are so weak, whatever it is. And that was that. I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll see. But you know what? I still continue to write to him, and when I would implement something that he taught, I would show it to him. So I didn't stop. Again, the don't give up. And then one day, my phone rings. I pick up the phone. He's like, "Is this Kia?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "This is Dan Kennedy." I'm like, "Oh, hey!"
Oh my God.
And he had this project that he wanted me to do, and I did the project for him, and it was at that time I knew exactly how he wanted that executed. I knew what was important to him, how he'd like to communicate, and I did that. And ever since then, he'd been giving me projects consistently, referring clients to me, and yeah, so it was terrific. But it was all of, don't be afraid to be different, go out there and you're going to make mistakes like I did. I totally ticked them off, but I course corrected it, and here we are. So
that is a great story. I don't think I knew that whole story like that, especially the 3-page facts admonishing you
I
for
still
being
have it.
cavalier.
Yeah.
You should put that up on your wall, or share it, and you should put it on your website. And you know what? I almost just thought about bringing up your website today on this, but I don't think I will. We'll talk about it another time.
Next podcast. There's going to be a lot of lessons learned from that, for sure.
Because we have to hurry up because we got stuff to cover.
Let's do it.
All right. So that is a fantastic story. So like, okay, besides Dan Kennedy that you did multiple projects for, Ben, you still do stuff for, like, so much of that great. So, and great legal marketing, and you work with Charlie and their stuff, and all of almost everything that comes out of my shop is you. Everything printed, except, and actually we kind of rolled this by you and got your permission, was this new thing that we just launched, which is our new book, the Mike Capuzzi Shook thing we did, the content blueprint, which is just brand new. Anyway,
that's awesome. Congratulations. That looks terrific.
But the next one, the 7 biggest mistakes, is coming out. That's going through you. And everything that we do, because you just the best quality, working with you, always on time, excellent feedback, always with the list, we've been through it with the scrubbing and the back and forth. So,
well, Tom, also your presentation for you, because you're in the design business too, and that you understand the importance of presentation and visual communication, and so that's important. And you can't just throw crap over the wall, for your marketing. That it has to be consistent. What you sell has to be consistent with your own stuff. So that's why we're very picky about the way that you do things. And that is a good point top quality that
you say, because, okay, so good for everybody. I'm glad you said that, because, all right, so yeah, I'm a digital guy. Luckily, say digital, I do websites, Kia does print. We could say that, but those two need to collaborate together. The brand messaging needs to be back and forth. And so we talk about that all the time. And it's critically important. Otherwise, because it's very expensive to do anything print related. It's very expensive. But it is also the best bang for your buck, even more so now. And so anything that you're going to do to send out. So say, for instance, you print something like this to send out. This is not cheap. And you send them to a web page, it better look like what you printed. And so there needs to be brand consistent. That's kind of what Kia's talking about. Really, I'm just being very broad, but that gets into the detail, into the, and you need to work with someone that is very connected to that brand messaging and that understands that, like Kia. And that's why I've always worked with Kia for all these years. And I mean, there's other there's cheap choices out there. I know that, but quality, when you're in quality and dependability and somebody that you can trust to get the job done on time, there's nobody like you, Kia. And thank you for all these years of helping us.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. And the other thing that I know that you value, doing web work for people, is the partnership. You'll find a lot of, vendors, I'll just call them vendors, that they just want to sell you stuff and then they're on their way. And that's not the case with you. You commit to your clients because you're invested with them for the long term, because their website is for as long as that they are in business. And that's where I see is important when you know, like you said, knowing the message, knowing the brand, and being, whoever you work with, who they're invested in, what are you trying to say? Why are you saying it? How are you saying it? And let's make sure that gets in and gets communicated across all your marketing,
right,
online, offline, and
yeah.
everything. So I think that's a key thing.
So, okay, so let's talk about a couple of secrets. I promised them that you tell them some secrets that all print newsletters should have baked into them. So, what give us a couple of secrets.
Oh, there's so let me just give you the overall print. So we're assuming that people are kind of they bought into the print newsletter idea, but not everybody does. Okay, I will still, and I was just talking to a good friend of mine about this, who's an online marketer. She's got online marketing down packed, and I was trying, and she's trying to understand some some of the offline aspects of it. In fact, I'm going to drop this. I wasn't planning on it, but I'm going to drop this. Me and her are working on a workshop together that we are going to launch a little bit later, where she's going to bring in her online expertise. I'm going to bring in my offline. We're going to put it together in this workshop that we're going to walk through the people who are going to be part of the workshop and help them build start to finish marketing that incorporates both of it. So you got the best of both worlds. And more information about that another time, so I dropped that real quick. But anyway, I was explaining to her, she was like, why print newsletters? That seems so expensive. And I said, yes, it is an investment, but here's the thing about print newsletters is, number one, getting something printed and, put content in it, printed, mailed in the post office for them to put into their hands to look at, there's a higher perceived value to it. Okay? There's something different about having something physical in your hand than online. There's a tactical thing to it where, so you took the time, it feels valuable, but also there's this sort of sensory tactical. You sit down, you look at it, the colors, the content. It's just a different experience that leaves a different impression. So there's value to that.
And
there's
people don't throw them away. They don't throw them away.
Correct. So being able to hand it to somebody,
Right.
I had, people come to me when I had when I had a physical store. People would come in, and she would show me my newsletter. She was like, I carry this thing around with me. And that's a different secret I'll tell you about in a minute.
Right.
But,
why does she carry it around with it? Right. Because this. Okay, go ahead.
They can take it with them. They can read it when they're like about to go to sleep. They're like, okay, I don't have time right now, but maybe. So having the physical show up, it's important. And that adding that to your online marketing, you're going to see a difference in that. So, and then I can go on about all the different ways that, a print newsletter is going to be valuable. So secret number one, just doing one is going to help you show up differently. Secret number two is, let's talk about the content. So there's two ways to do it. So you can write a newsletter that the content is sort of made for you, which is right for some people. So some people, they need help with the content, they need help getting it done and written. That is fine. If that's the way that you need it to get done, get it done. You still have the value of getting a printed newsletter into the hands of your target market, and there's value in that. But when you're ready to
really kind of go a little more advanced, a little more invested into your message and connecting with your market, then the content that's going to go in is going to be a lot more strategic and having more control over what goes in there. So the other secret is being strategic about the content. So, what's strategic about the content? One, making sure you have a good balance of personal and legal. Two, really making it personal and connecting with people. And three, adding engagement in there. So rather than just throwing content in there, give them opportunities to hire you, to request resources, to contact you.
Right. Calls to action.
Yes.
Right. Put your books in there, offers in there.
Your offers. highlight people, spotlight people.
Right. Spotlight your employees.
Yeah,
or your client success stories.
Client success stories, community businesses. So making it true direct response where you're giving people opportunities to take action on something. And so, I mean, that you need a little more control over your content with that. Now you could, if you have content made for you, you can certainly go in and edit it, not to say that you can't do that, but it just takes some more thought and strategy to do that. So, you know, like Ben's newsletters, he has, you know, he has a section where he's like, let me know. He throws controversial topics in there, and he's like, let me know what you think. And he gets tons of people responding to him, which is good. Your newsletters, you always have an offer in there. You always have, you talk about your book, you talk about some product, something that people can engage with you depending on what they need. So that's going to be important secret there. I have another one. Can I share one?
Yes. One more. Time for one more, Kia.
One more.
We're gonna have to do a continuation to this podcast because this is so good. We got more stuff to go over. We're gonna have to do a Kia round two. Go ahead though. What's your last one?
So I'll say this much. Your first issue of your newsletter, which is what we do with all our clients, is a strategic issue. And we actually create that in a very specific way so that it's an evergreen newsletter that actually replaces your law firm brochure. So instead of having this sort of boring old brochure that you give people, you give them a newsletter, and it does the same things and more. So I'll leave it at that.
That's cool. Okay. And then when you were talking about that, I actually had a bunch of other ideas about things that you and I talk about all the time that we need to talk about on another podcast that we'll schedule. Okay. So we have run out of time, but I wanted to make sure that everybody, you told me right before we got started that you have this really cool new offer that you're giving everybody, a implementation map, which is how to get shit done. It's PG-13. How to get stuff done, right? So lawyermarketingaction.com is where they go get that, right? And it's a step-by-step how to get all the stuff done they need to get done.
It's like a 30,000 foot view of the marketing journey from lead generation to conversion. Because the reason why I made it is because one of the biggest issues that lawyers, anybody who's doing marketing for their business is like, where do I start? And so, or if they're doing things, they're sort of overly focused in one area. They're overly focused in the lead generation area. They're overly focused in the nurture area. They're overly focused in some, and then they're neglecting other parts of that whole marketing process. So I made this map so that you can look at, oh, where am I? What am I doing? You know, what are we doing more of? What are we doing less of here? It's sort of like, you know, you need to like step back, see what you're doing, and then zoom in, step back. This is the zoom out to help you get your head wrapped around it. So if this is a graphic that you can have online, or if you need it printed, I can send it to you. And I'm happy to give it to your listeners.
lawyermarketingaction.com. It's important because it'll be down here. Okay, everybody, that's all the time we have today for this World of Marketing podcast. Now, I promised you a load, and you got it today from Kia. Kia, thank you so much. But we're going to have another one because I still have more questions here I didn't even get to.
I know. Too many stories.
Like the Hubble Space Telescope program that you were on. Boom. Yeah. That's good stuff. Like, there's a lot to this pretty lady that no one knows about. Like, how do you get your hair so beautiful during a pandemic? People want to know. Okay, everybody. Kia, thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll be in person next time.
Stay on the line for 2 seconds. Okay, I got a quick question for you. Okay, everybody, Tom Foster and Kia Arian on the World of Marketing. I will see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.